are a Sri Lankan bank. This is our home. That's why we are committed towards the future of this country, funding national development initiatives, because we believe in banking beyond transactions. HNB, your partner in progress.
Welcome to Lmd Tv. I'm Andrea Melissa. Anushan Selvaraja continues our focus on the country's economic trials following the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. This week, we cover the fields of clinical research and agriculture with Samantha Ranatunga, Director of RemediumOne.
Welcome to Lmd TV, Samantha. Good to have you on the show. Now, could you just give us a broad overview of how you view our economy at this point of time?
I think if you going by the global signals that we have seen, and as a country which is dependent a lot on the service industry for our foreign exchange, I think we are severely impacted we are severely impacted in the economy. If you take on a sectoral basis, the service sector is heavily impacted mainly due to tourism. Industry basically is facing challenges due to not being able to get their workers in a proper manner to their workplaces and to get the industrial working as they were. Of course, I would say the only bright light we see is the agriculture, which basically we have had a very, very good season. I think the weather shows that we will have another very good season next year. So for the next 4 to 6 months, in that context, I think that's the silver lining on a cloud. But on an overall basis, we will be impacted. But I think no more and no less than the other countries around in similar economic situations.
Now, you mentioned the agricultural sector, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But right now, you are associated with the clinical research sector. So in that light, Samantha, how do you view the health and safety precautions which have been given out to the public and the private sector?
I think I feel it is adequate because we took good control of the situation initially. Of course, we had an unfortunate mishap of this the big cluster which was created by in the forces. And other than that, I think we have managed the situation fairly well for a country of our size and our population density, because we are basically having the disease mostly focused on the highly dense population dense areas. But I feel that what we should look at is really what is going to happen after this lockdown is over. So I think I would say it's a little bit too presumptuous to make a judgment right now. We are having a plan to open out. It's how that plan basically will come into play, and then what impacts we would have is actually going to be the acid test.
Okay, but then from a medical aspect, what do you think the challenges would be going forward?
Medical aspect would be how successful we will be in the opening out, because if we have a surge of cases, which at the moment the sourcing is that we have had the armed forces involved, our best intelligence services involved, so which means that we have been managing to find out, I think 95% of the sources that basically brought the disease. But I think the opening out would create a much greater complexity on that position. But the only area I feel that we should maybe attempt would be to have a phased plan put in place, and that is shared with the public, so that the people know that if we hit certain benchmarks, we can go further in developing unlocking the country. Or if cases come to a certain level, we may need to go back. But I think getting the plan and getting the people on board and getting them responsible, as we have managed these case situations better than a lot of countries, I think a transparent plan would, I think, play with the public involvement and awareness would play a substantial role. That is my view.
Okay, let's move on to the testing aspect. That now the government has said that private sector institutions could get involved in the testing for the virus. Yet we are still relying on these testing kits being imported from the country, from China. Why is it that we don't see the local sector being more innovative and finding out new ways or better ways of testing, more affordable ways to make it easier for the public to afford such testing? We've only seen Slimtech going in and manufacturing the swabs needed to carry out the testing, but there's nothing else. What is your
basically in that understand the issue basically has been that we have had I think a very non-cohesive policy on research and development. So you can't kickstart any of those things when the institutions which you have to depend on are weak. So I think this is a very good clarion call to all the inventors, researchers, that we need to set up an institution how to do this, because you saw the ingenuity of the people. They came up with so many inventions of robots and dispensers and so many devices. So now maybe it's a good starting point to nurture those researchers, because we have not spent big money on research. We can't prepare test kits because to do research like that costs millions of dollars. So unless we have built capacity over a period, you can't kickstart it with small monies. But I think we can do the kind of community aiding that we are doing. It is possible. I think Slimtech has taken a very good step in bringing the swabs basically to start manufacturing, and that type of aspect should be really encouraged.
Samantha, part of the work that you do as well at this point of time is that you are involved in advising on public health aspects or policies. And could you just elaborate on that?
The work actually we do is we have built one thing we have been very proud of is we built a statistical model for the government, which we presented to the President's Secretariat on how the disease can move ahead in the number of cases if there was a partial lockdown, a full lockdown, or say complete opening. And I think the numbers which we put up were very accurate to a great extent. So, but then that also showed the government two aspects. One is that we need to have a statistical planning model. Two was that we need to do more testing, was one of the things which we elaborated. So I think there is a lot of parties who are helping in this whole process. So we, with the expert from the UK, presented this report. So, and we also are involved in doing a lot of other research activities. So this process will basically, we have been able to contribute to the process. But I think what more importantly will happen is the importance of clinical research for a country, and to participate in clinical research will basically come to a very, I think, a positive spin in the next few years, because of the fact that people suddenly realize that unless we research into medications, unless we research into treatments, into vaccines, and that it is tried out in populations, that we are not going to move forward as a society, because that's why we are scrambling today. Of course, we don't have the scale of countries like India or China to produce, because they have large basic industries in medical research, in medication, pharmaceuticals, in order to do that. But in our ways to participate in scientific research is something which we should not ignore.
So Samantha, we're going for a short commercial break right now. We'll be right back after a short word from our sponsors. Stay tuned.
We are a Sri Lankan bank. This is our home. That's why we are committed towards the future of this country, funding national development initiatives, because we believe in banking beyond transactions. HNB, your partner in progress.
Welcome back to the show. In this segment, Samantha Ranatunga draws on over 30 years of experience in the field of agriculture. So Samantha, food safety and security has finally been realized to be of utmost importance. First, what is your thought on the import ban?
Yeah, I think the import ban has to be thought out, because you just can't do import ban the way it happened in the 70s. We need to be selective. We are used to a certain lifestyle. We need to know the internal capacities in order to basically say that these products can be grown in adequate quantity, in adequate quality for use for industry, before we can set out our guidelines for basically bans. We have certain products which are very much a part of our lifestyle. Onions, big onions is one which we can grow, but not as well as some of the other countries. Dal is another which we cannot grow. So, but then it's a very much a part of our diet. So if we need to be thoughtful and selective in saying that these are the products, these we will try to find substitutions and then ban. Because I remember when I was a kid, when Mysore dal was something which we saw, we did not see in our childhood. So that is in 77 for the elections only they brought dal from overseas, because the government had a ban on Mysore dal, and the alternate dals were sort of insipid and it's not to our palate. So we need to be careful of consumer wants and requirements, whether people are willing to pay a premium, what products could be there, and also the capacity to grow. No paddy, no problem. Fruits, vegetables, no problem. Corn, no problem. There are, but the thing is, when it comes to the other pulse varieties, we will have challenges because we don't have good seed material. Those are very it is prone to a lot of insects and diseases. We need to then we don't have soya, and soya is a very big part of our diet, because we don't produce, I think, a fraction of soya that we want, because though we eat so much of TVP, we don't produce. So we need to be selective. There'll be the luxury products that we can do without. We need to have an immediate ban. Those are the ones which is cost on dollar terms a lot of money, which are non-essentials. But essentials, we need to have a educated call being taken.
So with your experience, how underutilized do you think Sri Lanka is in terms of agriculture?
We have to answer the question in two ways. Underutilized in the sense, we have 30% of our population in agriculture. So from a human quantum point of view, we have a large percentage in. But from an investment point of view, value addition point of view, its contribution to GDP is just under 10%. That is where the challenge lies. So because we need to understand why people are not investing in agriculture, because you have been in the business field for a long time. You know how many large companies are there in agriculture, and there are very, very few companies, and most companies are getting out of it. So in that context, we have to understand why. So I think though we have a large population, and because you have a large population involved in agriculture, there is going to be a fairly significant amount of political involvement because of the large vote base you're dealing with. And that is, and the balancing of that with the private sector requirements, if they want to invest heavily into agriculture, is something that we need to first address if we are to basically get into getting the underutilization part sorted out.
Samantha, let's just go back to what you said earlier. You said that over 30% of our population is involved in agriculture. Now, despite that, the biggest complaints or excuses given by various individuals on why they don't get into the agricultural sector is the shortage of labor. Now, if that is true, shouldn't we as an agricultural nation be further along in terms of using innovative farming methods, technology, etc., somewhat like what Israel is doing?
Yeah, again, it goes back to what we want to invest in is something we need to address, because nothing from Israel is coming cheap. None of the technologies that they use will be cheap. If we are to go that journey, we need to take the first hurdles of, we don't have adequate cover, because I think if you take our total agricultural land, we have only under 1% is under cover. That means we don't have even, I don't think we have even 1,000 hectares under cover as net houses. So when you're dealing in that kind of, that's the first thing where you can do climate control. You don't need to do sophisticated things in climate control. You just basically put a netting, which will make a rain barrier and insect barrier. And then your game plan changes much faster. Then, of course, there are greater levels of sophistication in that, how much of daylight you bring in, and then do you do it manually or do you do it by computer? There are so many things, but we need to take the first steps. And if we take the first steps properly, And if we keep the thing, current, and the initiatives that are there for technology used, youth will get involved in agriculture. They don't want to, if the because now the mechanization has come in not to make it hip for the youth. It has come in because to address the shortage of labor.
Now, on that note, then, Samantha, as a final question, you just mentioned some steps. Could you just briefly outline what those steps should be?
I think the main areas that I think we need to address would, I think, has to be that, is how to unlock private sector capital or entrepreneurial capital into agriculture. Because, because agriculture, if it remains a state monopoly, we will have a lot of challenges. And we have to keep the state sector involvement to a level. I'm not saying that it should not be, because it deals with the food prices. So we need to have accountability. But if we need to unlock capital, I think we have to come up with a policy for our land, because we need to basically have a system. I'm not saying to give, we can't just give away land, but we must have a process that if somebody wants, that they should be able to get land, or that they should basically be in a position to get land without a problem, to not to own land, but to basically get land for a cohesive agriculture project, which will where you will employ technology, and you will have outgrower base, which will be from the normal farming community. The second big aspect which we face is the seeds and planting materials. There are severe restrictions. We have some very archaic laws, and there are lots of delays in basically getting the type of genetic material you require. Though Bangladesh has a very good, very high level vegetable hybridization program, we don't have one. We have paddy hybridization, the rice program for rice breeding, but we don't do any vegetable hybrids, which is a telling statement about this country. We need to have a program, but then till then we need to have a program to bring good seeds to this country. Then specialty products, if you are going to do for agriculture for exports, you need some specialty treatment chemicals, specialty chemicals basically to give a very good look and feel for the products to be exported. Now those things we need to basically fast track. So I think that is another key area. And of course you get to the most hackneyed themes like cold chain. We need to see what is the kind of understanding that we need to have with the middlemen and the economic centers that are there. How do we get the larger supermarket chains to work with the economic centers, or have their own buying programs within the economic centers or outside the economic centers? Then if the farmer should never be at the mercy of glut situations where the IT has to get involved in the product planning. And there are large databases in Sri Lanka for farmers. So there are programs, but we need to collect that data, maybe use the ICTA to plot that data, and we will have lot of gaps. I'm sure about that. But though we have gaps, we have to start somewhere. We need to build a database. We need to then what happens is if we don't have a database, people will not invest on infrastructure for cold chain or preservation of the product, because there's no point in putting up something where you're far away from the market.
Well, let's hope that the powers that be listen to some sage advice. Thank you very much for joining us, Samantha. It was a great pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. My pleasure.
That's our show for the week. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Thank you for watching. Join us again next week at the same time, and stay safe.
We are a Sri Lankan bank. This is our home. That's why we are committed towards the future of this country, funding national development initiatives, because we believe in banking beyond transactions. HNB, your partner in progress.